So looking across your entire body of work, what is the single persistent question? Is there one or central theme that continues to drive you in your research and your creation of new pieces?
I would say that the central theme is a lot of motion. Uh, my artwork is very visually stimulating, which is kind of, I know it sounds kind of contradicting, but um, I, I, I tend to focus on like a lot of figures, faces, some that are intentional, some that are just, the way that our mind perceives, you know, lines placed in a certain way that, it creates that. So that's like a surreal element. Um, but I think in all, it's just like a movement of sorts. Like there's constant flow, you know, nothing's like a still life or anything. Everything is like, oh, this figure's here, but the way that the strokes are moving within the piece, like takes your eye this way or gives you like this like spiral, like, flight of the bumblebee kind of like, you know, like journey. And I try to like do that with like multiple of the colors. So if you're looking at it from like, oh, I like this. I like if yellow grabs your eye, you can follow the yellow and you'll see this whole different thing all within yellow. But then like you look at it from a blue perspective, you see all the blue and everything like that. So um and most of that is, it's intentional just because, I think that's the way my hardwiring is, my brain.
So do you think that as far as a central theme goes, do you think you're more focused on the visual of the piece than you are the introspective, or is there intention behind when you sit down to create? Is there intention behind that as far as like a purpose, or is it more visually guided?
um I think it's more it's kind of hard to say, but I would say it's definitely initially like the go-to is it's more of an emotion than it is like a visual aesthetic. um I feel like the emotion is always gonna like hit first, at least in my perspective. Like, the emotion's gonna hit first, and then it's like, okay, what does that emotion feel like? What does it look like? Is it red? Is it black? Is it a square? Is it a circle? Is it squiggly? Is it jagged? Lines. Um, and then from there, you know, it I tend to either like go at it either two ways, either like if it's from an emotion or if I'm, pulling from an emotion, it um it's like either going through my like personal like, astral like Rolodex of like imagery or just like concepts of like, is that does that represent what this emotion is? Or sometimes, resources like magazine art, magazines and art books and everything to kind of like get stimulant in a way of like what it is that I want to capture. Um and sometimes I'm able to pull it off from that, which is a little bit more of an easier step because like the image is already there. I'm just like, reconfiguring it. But a lot of times if it's non from that element is more just like of a astral or, abstract kind of concept. It's more like of an like more of an automation kind of like style, like approach where like the emotion is there, but then it's like I can take, the brush or the charcoal or pencil and just like start like, freehanding like, lines and shapes and everything. And then like allowing that to create its own space. But then eventually like taking a step back and kind of see you know, what comes out from it. Like, oh, like is that or torso? Or is that a hand? Or is that just, some alien-like figure that's floating into this ether here? Where's it going? So
do you feel like you've always worked in that way, or do you feel like it has changed or evolved throughout the years?
I'm grateful to be like gifted with the gift of being able to create, but I definitely can't say like, oh yeah, I knew what I was doing when I was 5. Like, no. I think with anything, like having that gift is kind of like, you have it, you know what it is. And I think for most artists, we surround ourselves with things that we like, so, or just, even in general aesthetic, like, you want to be successful, surround yourself around successful people. You want to be rich, hang out with rich people. Want to be a rapper, hang out with rappers. So I think for the artist journey, for me, it was like, the museums, the artist books and stuff like that, and like being in the scene, but then like really like, gravitating to like, what are some of the artists that I looked up to that I liked? And, and it's like the Dalis, Salvador Dali, Matisse, Basquiat, um, you know, all these different artists that have put out there before me or that are even doing it now. But obviously, when you're coming up, it's more just like you're seeing stuff in the museum. So it's like you're just seeing like, oh, I like this. I don't like that. So I think like once you kind of like figure out what groove you want to be in, whether it's like expressionist, you want to be, Monet, Van Gogh, or, you want to be more abstract, got the Pollocks and the Picassos and stuff, or you want to be surreal with Dali's, Man Rays, and so forth. It's kind of like what it's almost like a lane, like, and it's not like a wrong or right. I think just everybody tends to like hit that fork in the road where they're like, I'm this type of artist or I'm this type of artist because it either connects with them or, um,
So do you feel like your placement in the surreal world and the fact that your work tends to lean surreal most of the time puts you more in an emotional state when you're creating? It drives from that place.
uh, yeah, yeah, to a degree. I think for, you know, every artist, or at least for myself, like I try not to put too much of myself into it. I don't know if that's just like superstition, but I think every, artist, like we always there's an imprint of us in all of our work, but the idea is for not to put too much in it. Because then it's like it's, I don't know if it's superstitious or just like kind of like, I don't know, there is no give or take. So but yeah, it's emotional, and sometimes like it's the idea either be so aggressive that you have to like just get it out, and then over time I can like come back to it and like go back into that emotion without it being so concentrated, where I can like, okay, this is where this is going, let me move here. But I now see it in a different way after like I flushed it all out. You know what I mean?
Thank you.